All right, well, welcome everybody today to our noon Zoom. My name is Adam Schaefer. I'm one of our career advisors here in the Office of Career Development Services. Today, we're going to go over resume writing with a few other areas, including cover letter writing and some reference documentation. So we'll jump right into it. So I have our chat feature open. We also have Rose, our director, moderating as well. So please feel free to ask any questions during the entire process. So let's get started. Again, my name is Adam Schaefer. I'm a career advisor here. I've been here, let's see, we're coming up on 3 years in the summertime-ish. So please feel free, ask us any questions you may have during our presentation today. So first, we're going to cover some resume writing. And I like to start this off with a quick question. So you can put it into the chat if you would like, or you can feel free to unmute yourself. But I want to know what you believe the purpose of a resume is. And there are no wrong answers. So I like to, see what everybody likes to think the purpose of a resume is.
Go ahead and type it in the chat. All right, so we have a brief overview for employers. They give a sense of as to who you are and what you've accomplished. Getting hired, to show employers your experience, to show why you're qualified for the job you're applying for, to stand out from others, to show your skills, to lay out your accomplishments, to let employers know your skills and previous experience.
All right, so I like the participation. Thank you, everybody. And we're right on the mark. So your resume says a lot about you, and really it does do all these things that everybody is saying, right? It tells the employer our skills, our accomplishments, let them really know who we are. But the big thing is it determines whether or not you'll be called in for an interview or not. So I saw one person say it helps us get the job. And I would say it's a common misconception during the first round of really applying that our resume gets us the position. Well, a resume gets us into the interview, and then our interview and how we sell ourselves, the stories we tell, that's what ultimately leads to getting the position. So how can we make sure that we make our most impactful representation of ourselves in a professional manner on our resume? Well, we're going to go over actually a few items as we go through today to make sure that you feel confident in your resume. But before we get to those actual tips and tricks, this is my own personal thing, right? I like to always see, how long do you guys all think recruiters take when reading a resume? And this is upon first glance. 15 seconds, 15 seconds, less than a minute, a few seconds, 30 seconds. Just skim it, okay? So everybody's pretty much right on the mark, right? It could be anywhere. We've heard from some taking about 12 seconds to anywhere to 30 seconds. Not many are taking an in-depth look on the first pass. So our first thing, yes, they do skim through it. We want to make sure it's an easy read. So sometimes we'll see some resumes with 2 or 3 columns or some crazy fonts, right? We don't want to trick the employers. We want to make sure they're going to go through and really have a good impression on our resume and want to read more. So yes, it is pretty brief from first glance. So we'll dive into our resume must-haves to make sure that your resume is standing out on that first glance, to make sure that our readers, the employers, a recruiter, whatever it may be, can definitely pull us aside for further review. So resume must-have number 1 is our header, right? It goes at the top of all of our professional documents. So regardless if you're writing a cover letter or a resume or your reference page, they should all remain the same. So we want our name, our legal name, our big, bold, stand it out, right? I wouldn't go giant size 60, but I wouldn't go the same size font as everything else as our document. We want it to stand out. So while that may be the biggest font on our document, we want to make sure the rest of our document is all staying the same. 12-point font, 11-point font. I really wouldn't go much smaller than 10 because then it starts to, jumble stuff up. So stick to the default if it's a 12 or 11. Some computers have different defaults. So mailing address, actually, market trends now are kind of going towards the optional It's kind of an outdated thing, I would say. Not a lot of things are getting mailed, but you can use it to an advantage in your point if you're applying in a local market that you may be moving and say you've got family that's living there. You could use that as your mailing address for there. Or if you want to apply in a local area, you can tell the employer that you are currently living there. But as we begin to go through, modern times, more addresses are kind of being left off. So if you want to leave it off, do that. Phone number, right? We want to put our phone number, the one that you're going to pick up, not our home phone, usually going to be our cell phone nowadays. And please make sure that we have a professional voicemail set up, right? Not the default robot, you've reached 239, blah, blah, blah. Well, the employer may not know if they dialed the right number or if you typed the right number into your resume. So leave a nice professional voicemail. 10 seconds or so is a good one. So it could be something as simple as, hi, you've reached Adam Schaefer. I'm unavailable at the moment, but please leave your name and number and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you. Right? Nice, short, sweet, to the point. Please don't do any of those try to trip you up voicemails where you pretend to answer it and you're not actually there. Stay away from those. And then an email address, right? A nice professional email address. So you could create a new one if you don't have one or you're currently using your school one. I like to have a fresh one because we all use email addresses that we've used for a long time for, our YouTube accounts, our Hulu accounts, all these different things. And sometimes you get a lot of junk email to there. So if you create a new one, first name, middle initial, last name at Yahoo, at Gmail, it doesn't really matter where. That way we can use those. And anytime we get something into our inbox, we know it's from one of the jobs we applied for. And make sure it's not hyperlinked on your paper. They can't necessarily click on your resume and go right to there. So make sure it's not hyperlinked. And then a LinkedIn URL. So you can actually customize your URL, but the reason it says optional there, if you're not confident in your LinkedIn page, I wouldn't include it. But if you feel you have a great LinkedIn account, you've got a good page, it's got some traffic, then you can definitely include it into your header. If you include it, more often than not, a professional that is recruiting you or an employer looking at you is going to go explore it. So if you don't feel confident in it, I just wouldn't include it. So we can definitely help you with those LinkedIn pages as well on the side. But this is the header, right? Must have number one. So I've got some examples of some solid headers that you can utilize. Again, we got the name, big and bold. You see our contact information. And two of my samples have a LinkedIn account attached. And you can see there's 3 different variations and really either of them work. There's no right or wrong here. We just need to get our main points across that are in our must-haves. So that's must-have number 1. But must-have number 2 is going to be our education section, right? Everybody here is in educational program at FGCU. So we want to make sure we're defining what we're here, what we're spending our time doing, and really what we're learning. Spell out the university in full. Some, if you're applying outside, may not know what FGCU is, right? And then also give the city and the state on the right. And you want to list your degree out fully. Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts. If you're in a master's program, Master of Science, Master of Arts, Master of Public Health, whatever it may be, you want to make it the professional written out name, not majoring in, not concentration in. So make sure we're giving that full degree. You also want to give somebody our expected graduation date. And then once you do graduate, you can simply remove the word expected. Anticipated is often used as well, but make sure that you're giving the person the date it's going to be completed rather than a range of when you started to ended. You can also include a GPA. If it's a high GPA, about a 3.5 or above, you just don't want to give an employer a reason to vet you out of a process by listing a lower GPA. If you have any minors, you can include those in a bullet point below. And if you have any academic awards, you can list them in the same line as your high GPA. Another thing to really think about too is that last bullet within there, relevant coursework. This is a great section for students coming out of college because we may not have a ton of experiences in our field, but say you're applying to a position, in this case, it's focusing on supply chain. Well, we want to highlight all of our supply chain relevant coursework because as students, think of what we do in our courses. We're taking tests, being tested on it. We're doing projects, which is what you would be doing in the real world. So definitely highlight your relevant coursework. And these should always be changed depending on what type of job you are applying for. So that's must-have number 2. And must-have number 3, we really want all of our education and experience listed in reverse chronological order. Now, reverse chronological order is going to be most recent first. And that's in each section. So say if we have an education section and you got your AA at another institution, well, FGCU would be first in there because it's more recent. Let's say in our experience section, we've had multiple interviews, right? We want to make sure, multiple internships, not interviews, sorry. We want our most recent internship or even any experience up top, and that's listed from start date, not from end date. And it just shows an employer that our growth and development over time from our earlier experiences to now our more recent experiences. So reverse chronological order. And then must-have number 4, I would say this is one of the toughest things to really nail down on a resume. These are what we call accomplishment statements, and they're the bullet points under the descriptions of what we're trying to get our reader, whether it's a recruiter or an employer, to really view. Some things really to think about within there is, are we showing outcomes and results? Are we also showing quantifiable data when applicable? And really, you want to provide a demonstration and an understanding of the role, not necessarily what we did at that job. Because if you're just writing your bullet points in terms of what you did, well, that's what you kind of have to do to stay employed in those roles. So what we're looking for here is what we accomplished, our high points, and really what our overall, contribution to that organization or employer is. And the person reading it going forward can see that we had been successful and we can continue to accomplish items. So while I say this is probably the most difficult part, I've got a neat chart for everybody to kind of go through. So I consider this a 3-part ordeal when writing accomplishment statements. Part 1 being writing your action verb. And if you guys are writing these and you may find that you're using the same action verbs over and over again, help, assist, develop, manage, create, and they're just repeating themselves, we have in our resume writing guide on our website about 3 pages of different grouped action verbs. So definitely utilize that. So that's part 1. We want to identify an action verb. In part 2, it's what I consider the project, or what was the problem, right? What was that relating to the initial action verb? And then part 3 is the really, really crucial portion that helps somebody understand and really get a clear sense of what we did accomplish at our place of business. And this is the reason, the result, the why, the how. So really the justification. So I'll read the first one here for you guys. As you can see, it reads left to right. So what's the first thing? Okay, well, at our place of business, we want to talk about our leadership skill. Okay, how can we talk about our leadership skill? Well, you could say, develop. What did I develop? A training manual. Okay, why did I do it? How did I do it? To provide job instructions for new student workers in order to increase operational efficiency for the department. And that really gives somebody a clear understanding of what the overall goal was and that we achieved it, instead of just leading it and saying, I developed a training manual, right? It's just, ugh. So if we can include that result or that reason why, it definitely contributes to that overall understanding of the role and the goal that we did accomplish. The second one here I'll read because we use some numbers. And again, anytime you can use quantifiable data, the stronger it's going to be. So this is focusing on critical thinking. So what did I do? Manage social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, resulting in a 20% increase in web page traffic and over 300 new followers. Somebody reading that definitely sees value added when you're going through and managing the social media platform. So this is a great way to write our accomplishment statements. This little chart is actually in our resume writing guide as well. Our presentation is being recorded, so definitely take advantage of our accomplishment statement chart. It's going to be, again, I think the hardest part of writing resumes, but we can definitely sit down and work through them with you. So must have number 5, right? Always tailor your resume. And you may be thinking, okay, well, what do we really mean by tailoring the resume? And this is going into our accomplishment statements. This is organizing our resume in best terms for the employer and the job that we are applying for, essentially. We want to make sure that it's best fit. Often we'll meet with students who are utilizing the same resume time and time again to just apply for jobs. And really, it doesn't kind of work like that. I really like to use the analogy of a recipe that's handed down from your family for years and years. If it calls for baking powder and you don't have any and you throw in some baking soda, well, then it's not the same recipe. And same with the resumes, right? And if you're not tailoring it and customizing it to each individual employer and really job description, then it's just not going to be a great match. Reading the job description is a great way to really tailor our resume. The employer is giving you the blueprint for what they see in a successful candidate. If you've got some items in that job description that match what you've done, you can include those into there. So definitely tailor your resume for every job that you're applying for. And I've got some additional resume tips. Always proofread. Please get as many eyes on it as you can. It sounds great in our head when we're sitting there typing it and writing it out, but get somebody's eyes on it, have them proofread it, or even read it out loud to you, because you may find you want to kind of change up some of the verbiage. And avoid templates. Templates are hard to work with. Somebody essentially creates this pretty looking document and it looks really neat. But they're hard to work with because they're usually locked templates that you can't change the spacings, the colors. Some of them are two columns. So I would avoid them. They're much easier to utilize your own blank document where you have total creativity of spacing and sizing and really everything. I would use a conservative font. Usually the default one that comes with the computer is good, whether it's Arial, Times New Roman, Georgia, Calibri, all the default ones are really a good go-to. And really use your space efficiently. We meet with students quite a bit, say, well, I have a lot of experiences. I'm worried about fitting it onto the one page to get employers to really make sure they can skim through in that quick amount to really see what they like. So you can go anywhere between narrow margins and default margins, which is 1/2 inch to 1 inch all the way across. I would go single space and really take a good look at your spacing to see if you're not losing any giant lines in between that could be filled with information. Some additional sections you may want to add could be anything around internships, certifications, licenses, skills that you have, honors and awards, volunteer work, any language skills you may have, research you've done, memberships, affiliations, clubs, but really think of everything you've done. These are going to be key items to really include on a resume that an employer would like to see. If you're emailing or submitting it online, which more often than not, it's happening nowadays with our resumes, you want to save it as a PDF, and you want to save that PDF with your name in the title. So when you're saving the file name, just change it to your name, -resume or .resume, or even if it's the company, you want to include that as well. The reason we send it and save it as a PDF is that is a locked image and a locked document when we send it. If anybody's opened Microsoft Word between a Mac and a PC and back again, they kind of format differently, just trying to open on the different softwares. Well, a PDF is going to lock that image and really present it as you want it. And my last resume tip here is we're not going to list our references or state references available upon request. That's going to be a whole separate document. We'll actually cover that later on in our presentation today. So if you ever see that in a template or any kind of area you're thinking about putting on the resume, kind of knock it out. We'll have our own separate reference page. We will dive into our next section, which is cover letters. And I forgot I added this page right before we began. So I'm going to cover this before we get into cover letters, but often you'll hear of what is called a master resume. And a master resume is just a document that contains any experience that we've done, any skill you possess, and it's in our resume ready format of what we're going to use. But typically this is going to be more information that's not necessarily tailored to the job we're applying for. And this is just so you don't have to delete and save over top of other areas. But when we're applying with our actual job, you want to get rid of all the things that are irrelevant and really, again, when we're saving our name for that specific job, we have a tailored resume for the job. And sometimes you'll hear of a CV. Well, what is a CV? It's actually a curriculum vitae, and it means course of my life. It's usually longer than a resume. Once you have a little bit more experience, it's usually used. It's also used in academia areas, research settings. So it encompasses more than what we've really talked about today. If you are interested in going into an academic or research type area, we can definitely help prepare you for a CV. But they're very tailored towards specific fields. So I wouldn't get hung up on it if you read about those too much. Now we'll get to our cover letter writing. So I'll do it again, just like the first part. I'd like to pose a question, so feel free to put it into the chat. But what do you believe is the purpose of a cover letter? Stimulate interest and read the resume. Okay, I like that. It's like the purpose statement, but longer. Okay, to provide basic information. Okay, to connect with potential employers. Okay, to show interest in the job and why we're a good fit for the position. I like that. To give prospective employers a brief introduction about you. So everybody's pretty close, right? So this is my big thing with cover letters, right? So the resume focuses on you and the past, while your cover letter focuses on the employer that you're applying to and the future. You want to tell the hiring professional what you can do to benefit the organization in the future. So if we're thinking about it that way, right, it's almost futuristically writing, whereas our resume is current things and past things. So that may have kind of confused people when I bring up the word future, but as we go through it, it'll become a little bit more clear. But thank you everybody for participating. So really, this is what I call the three main parts of a cover letter. You can see this is my cover letter sample. And again, we've got a cover letter writing guide on our website with a few samples in there, but I really want to focus on three parts. And while this may be a 3-paragraph cover letter, I don't want you to get hung up on 3 paragraphs. I've seen some effective 2-paragraph ones, some effective 4-paragraph ones, but really you just need to hit the 3 main parts. So the first part, right, we need an intro paragraph. You want to tell the employer why you're writing to them and why the position is really exciting to you. So I'll read the first part here, the intro paragraph. Please accept this letter and resume and application for the Public Relations Director position at Neapolitan Marine, position 1234, as posted on Eagle Career Link website. I believe my combination of experience, skills, and personal interest in the boating industry may match well with the qualifications you are seeking, right? 2 sentences, and it definitely hits on our point of what's the first part and really the big intro. Okay, the second part, right? This is your sales pitch, your meat and potatoes. This should be the longest part, and that's why often we can see it in a 4-paragraph format or really just, the 3-paragraph, because you may have a lot to offer in the sales pitch. So what makes you the best candidate for the position? What we don't really want to see here is a complete rehash of the resume. Again, we're writing futuristically to the employer reading it. So I'll read this one in our sample. On my resume, you'll note that I recently graduated from Florida Gulf Coast University with a Bachelor of Science degree in marketing. This past spring, I served as the Public Relations Advising Intern at Gulf Coast Cruise Liner, a luxury yacht broker in Naples, where I had the opportunity to work with the media, write press releases, and develop community relation events. My responsibilities also include overseeing the creation of all corporate marketing materials and maintaining the company website. Managing these communication strategies required proficiency in various desktop publishing programs and website design software. Attention to detail, strong organizational skills, and the ability to work under deadlines were critical to ensuring successful public relations efforts for the company. Now, you may be thinking, wow, that sounds really great. Where did they kind of pull that information from? Just like we're talking about with resumes and tailoring and often referring to the job description, often in the job description, this is key areas where you can include into your cover letter. They're giving you, again, that blueprint we talk about. So if you have skills and abilities and really that sales pitch that meets what they're looking for in the job description, include some of that into there. And then the third part, right? The big closing, why this company, and a big thank you. So I'll read this one. Neapolitan Marine has a great reputation in the boating industry, and I'm very interested in learning more about this position and your public relations goals. I would welcome the opportunity to speak with you in more detail about my background and how I may be able to contribute to your team. Feel free to contact me at your convenience list your contact information. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, signed name, printed date. So you can see the similarities kind of between doing the research that we're talking about, reading that blueprint that we're talking about, and then also, as I mentioned in the resume, we've got the same header. So whatever header you're going to use in one of our resume must-haves, we're also putting it into our cover letter. You want to address the top portion just like you would a letter. If you can't find the contact information for who is going to be reviewing it, you can do a hiring manager or human resources, whatever it may be. But typically you can find that out from reading the posting or even reaching out to the organization to simply ask that question. But this is a brief rundown on cover letters using, again, the three main parts of it. It could be, again, 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs, as long as you hit the key areas within our 3 parts. So I've got some question and answers of cover letters. So when should I submit one, right? So whenever possible, whenever they're asking for it or even not asking for it, there's a definite advantage to using it as it tells the employer why you're applying and why you're excited about applying. Why am I writing one, right? To show the match of your skills to the job and how you can help the organization. What should I do first, right? You want to analyze the job description, really research the employer, any type of ties you can draw to the employer, the job itself, and really they want to show or have you show interest in the position and the company itself, not just apply to the job to apply to the job. What makes a successful cover letter? One that is void of typos, grammatical errors. Just like your resume, get it reviewed, get eyes on it, have people read it to you, whatever it's going to take to make sure that you can have those errors and typos fixed. How long should the cover letter be? Well, we've already talked about this. No longer than 1 full page, whether it's 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, 2, we need to hit those key 3 areas. And then some more brief tips on cover letters, right? I'm going to talk about it again. Always tailor your cover letter and your resume. You can pull directly from the job postings. Please, if you're applying for multiple jobs, double check your work, that you are changing all the information to best fit. You don't want to apply to company ABC when in your cover letter you're talking about company XYZ. Please update. And you can see here in my little notes, the red areas, such as implements marketing and advertising campaigns, analyzing sales forecasts, organizing promotional presentations, prepares marketing reports, develops promotional materials, researches, evaluating product characteristics. These are all things that are directly off of job postings, job descriptions. So utilize those wordings, especially with everything being digital now. Sometimes it'll even go through maybe a scanner and it'll populate, matched words, and it'll give the reviewer a percentage match or best fit percentage. So if you can use those wordings and those numbers, anything you can do to best make sure that you are closely related to the posting and the description, it's going to make you that much more stronger of a candidate. And then I've got some cover letter don'ts to kind of wrap up cover letters. Don't send a generic cover letter, just like a resume, right? No templates. We're going to customize for each specific job. Don't repeat your resume, right? Don't just use the bullet points that are in there. You want to use your cover letter to highlight new material and to summarize the resume and the key points. Don't be too wordy, right? Just like our resume, we're not going to get too in-depth. These are usually reviewed pretty quick, right? Hiring managers should be able to read it quickly and concisely. And don't go overboard with flattery. We still want to be professional and mature. Really, the big flattery pieces come in the thank you, where you're wrapping up and thanking them for reading and really why you want to work for that company. So don't go overboard with the flattery. And then stay away from I statements and really kind of braggy and selfish type phrases. So some of those could be, I'll be a huge asset to your team. Instead, you could use something such as, I would appreciate the opportunity to contribute as part of your team. So be gratuitous in your writing as well. Does anybody have questions on the cover letter portion before we dive into our third and final portion of professional references? And then references, right? Formatting references. Again, we're going to have them in a whole separate document, not at the bottom of our resume. And these are the areas we really want to highlight, right? Our references. First and foremost with references, please reach out to the reference. Ask if it is okay if you can utilize them as a professional reference and update them along the way. Did you get the position? Did you not get the position? Are you currently still interviewing for it? But really update them and ask them if it's okay. You want to definitely do this because you don't want to get a surprise when you apply for a job. You don't ask your reference and maybe they give you a bad review and you're in the final part of the employment or the interview process and it doesn't allow you to gain that employment. So definitely ask your references, update them, and don't pick somebody like mom or dad or somebody in family, right? Hopefully they're going to say super positive things, but we want professional references, whether it's a former professor, whether it's somebody who was our mentor, an internship coordinator, anybody that was a supervisor for us. So thing number one we want on our reference, the name, right? Professional name. Title, what is their title at their current place of business? Employer, who were they employed by? Preferred phone number and preferred email address. And this is another thing to really make sure that you're updating your references and getting that accurate information. You don't want to give your prospective employer the wrong information and it not really end up getting to them. And again, that could be a reason of not having the reference get back to you. Years known. This is a big thing just because it gives the reviewer really a good sense of how well do you know that individual, as well as relationship. This is a key area. Faculty, again, mentor, professional reference. Your relationship part of it is going to be a huge ordeal in there. But you can see I've got a full document here with that list. Again, we're using our same header as we do on our resume and our cover letter to complete a nice professional package, but this is a nice way to format our professional references. Again, not too difficult, just looks nice, neat, and professional.
There is a question that came in. What if we don't necessarily have the skills or experiences required to say an internship?
Well, great question, Ryan. So you don't necessarily have to have an internship. It could be any of your experiences along the way, or what we call transferable skills that you've gained through other work experiences. It could be customer service focused. It could be sales focused. It could even be through your service learning opportunities and what you were doing. We can meet on an individual basis, Ryan, to really go over that. But the big key thing is related experience and unrelated experiences. And those unrelated experiences, how can we use those transferable skills that we have gained and relay those back to that position? And then we really want you to utilize our resources. I've talked about them a few times. You can find them right on our webpage, which is fgcu.edu/career services. I saw Rose put it in there a little earlier. All of our guides are in there and downloadable for you. And you'll see we have Eagle Career Network. I know earlier in one of my documents, I referenced Eagle Career Link. I need to go through and update my document. But we have now changed over to Eagle Career Network. It's the same platform. It's our career management system. We are actually hosting our career fair coming up. It's going to be virtual through there. That's March 10th and March 11th. So definitely check that out. Employer information is on there, jobs and internships, and how everybody registered for this event. So continue to utilize it. And as I said before, you can book an appointment with a career advisor for any of the appointment types we have listed here. Career exploration, major choice change exploration. So we won't change your major, but we can talk about different opportunities that present yourself to you. Graduate school planning, job search strategies, resume and cover letter reviews, LinkedIn reviews, interviewing skills, internship assistance, and we recently added career fair preparation as well to our appointments. So please utilize it. You can get to it right from our website. It's a big button right there. It says book an appointment with a career advisor. You can see all of our availability. Usually we book about 2 to 3 weeks out in advance, and they do fill up. So make sure if you have an appointment you want to book, grab it when it's available. We do have lots of availability for career advisors seeing appointments. We have an assistant director, a director, and 2 peer career advisors specifically for cover letters, resumes, and personal statements. So definitely take advantage of that. And then those who do not know or haven't been to see us, because we're still going virtual right now, we are in a new building, kind of right in the center of campus next to the library lawn, right? We're now in the Career and Exploratory Advising Center. There's my little picture of it. But we are open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You can reach our front desk with any questions. You can shoot us an email with any questions. Our website's posted there. But overall, please know we are here to help you along your professional journey. Cover letters, resumes, references. I know that's what we talked about today, but anything you may have questions about, we are here for you guys, right?
If we may not have enough relevant experience, would high school kind of things from that time be relevant at all, or?
So that's a great question. I would say it really depends, yes, on how much related experience and unrelated experiences you do have. Sometimes we do draw on high school experience, especially in the freshman or sophomore level. We will, just because you haven't really had time to get some of these professional experiences done. But yeah, I would include that. And even in your master resume that we kind of briefly touched on, include that. So that way we can kind of eliminate and cut back based off of what we're applying for. But yes, if you do not have some of those experiences necessary for the application, definitely include that. Again, plan to meet with us so we can look at it and work with you one-on-one and really best position you for some of these opportunities you may be applying for. Good question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
There's another question.
Yep,
You
I
see it?
see. I'm a transfer student. Is it necessary to include all schools I attend, even if I did not earn a degree? So I would say if you did not earn an AA, I probably would not. Your credits are going to transfer over and it will be on the transcript. If you are applying back to that area ever, or if you're applying to that school itself down the road for a job, then you can put that in to maybe draw on a connection. But if you did not earn an AA or any type of certificate or anything, I would probably leave it off. Okay, from Alyssa, for the education section, do we leave off our high school information? So Alyssa, kind of with the question from Maya, if you've got more related experiences, typically as a junior and a senior and above, we're going to leave off our high school education information, unless you're going to, again, apply in that area or even back to that high school itself. Any kind of chance you can draw on making a connection with that employer, it's going to be advantageous. So that's almost on a case-by-case basis, but more often than not, I would leave it off just because we're going to develop and gain further skills and experiences along our journey. Well, thank you for everybody attending today. We will have this recorded and put on our YouTube channel, which you can also find from our main website on the right-hand side of those buttons. So please feel free to spread the word that we've got great workshops and other videos available covering a multitude of topics on our YouTube page. But please, share it with everybody. And if you are looking to have your resume cover letter reviewed, please book an appointment with us. We look forward to working with you. But thank you, everybody, for coming today.
Thank you, everybody.